The world is witnessing a geopolitical rivalry of unprecedented scale and complexity. The United States and China are locked in a struggle for global dominance, reminiscent of the 19th century Great Game between Britain and Russia. This modern-day contest spans multiple domains, from military might and economic influence to technological innovation and diplomatic maneuvering. Both nations seek to shape the international order and advance their own interests. The stakes are incredibly high, with the potential to reshape the global landscape for decades to come. The similarities to the Great Game are striking. Just as Britain and Russia vied for control of Central Asia, the US and China are engaged in a strategic competition across multiple regions. The Indo-Pacific, Africa, and even the Arctic have become arenas for this rivalry. Both countries are actively seeking to expand their influence, secure resources, and establish strategic partnerships. This contest is not just about territorial gains, but about shaping the rules, norms, and institutions that govern the international system. The rivalry is intensifying. Both nations are investing heavily in their militaries, developing cutting-edge technologies, and forging strategic alliances. The competition is playing out on multiple fronts, from trade wars and cyber attacks to diplomatic offensives and proxy conflicts. The global balance of power is shifting, and the outcome of this rivalry will have profound implications for the future of the international order. The world watches with bated breath. The decisions made by these two superpowers in the coming years will determine the course of the 21st century. Will this rivalry lead to conflict, or can a new equilibrium be found? The answer to this question will shape the destiny of nations and the fate of humanity. The military dimension of the US-China rivalry is perhaps the most visible and concerning aspect of this geopolitical showdown. Both nations are engaged in a massive military buildup, modernizing their forces and expanding their capabilities. The US, with its vast military infrastructure and global network of bases, still maintains a significant edge in terms of overall power projection. However, China is rapidly closing the gap, investing heavily in advanced weaponry, cyber warfare capabilities, and a blue water navy. China's military modernization is particularly focused on challenging US dominance in the Indo-Pacific region. The People's Liberation Army has been rapidly expanding its naval and air power, developing advanced missiles and submarines capable of targeting US assets in the region. China is also increasingly assertive in its territorial claims in the South China Sea, constructing artificial islands and deploying military assets to reinforce its claims. This has raised concerns among neighboring countries and heightened tensions with the United States. The US, in response, is strengthening its military presence in the Indo-Pacific. It is bolstering alliances with countries like Japan, Australia, and India, and conducting joint military exercises to deter Chinese aggression. The US is also investing in new technologies, such as hypersonic missiles and autonomous weapon systems, to maintain its military edge. The competition in the military realm is a dangerous game of brinkmanship, with the potential for miscalculation and escalation. Beyond the Indo-Pacific, both the US and China are expanding their military footprints in other regions. China is establishing its first overseas bases in Africa and pursuing security agreements with countries in the Middle East. The US maintains a global network of bases and is actively engaged in counter-terrorism operations and security partnerships around the world. This global competition for military influence is further fueling tensions and raising the stakes of the rivalry. The economic realm is another key battleground in the US-China rivalry. Both countries are economic powerhouses, with the US boasting the world's largest economy and China rapidly catching up. The competition for economic dominance is playing out in various ways, from trade wars and currency manipulation, to technological innovation and investment in developing countries. Each side is vying for control of global supply chains, access to critical resources, and influence over international financial institutions. Trade has become a particularly contentious issue. The US has imposed tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, accusing China of unfair trade practices and intellectual property theft. China has retaliated with tariffs of its own, leading to a trade war that has disrupted global markets and hurt businesses on both sides. This tit-for-tat escalation has highlighted the deep economic interdependence between the two countries, but also the growing mistrust and competition that threaten to unravel this relationship. Beyond trade, the US and China are locked in a fierce battle for technological supremacy. Both countries are investing heavily in research and development, particularly in areas like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and 5G wireless technology. The race for technological dominance is not just about economic competitiveness but also about national security and military advantage. Whoever controls the technologies of the future will hold a decisive edge in the 21st century. The economic rivalry between the US and China is also playing out in the developing world. China has been aggressively pursuing its Belt and Road Initiative, investing billions of dollars in infrastructure projects in countries across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The US sees the Belt and Road Initiative as a tool for China to expand its influence and create economic dependencies. In response, the US has launched its own initiatives, such as the Blue Dot Network, to counter China's growing economic clout. Afghanistan, a country ravaged by decades of conflict and instability, has become a new arena for the US-China rivalry. With the US withdrawal in 2021, a vacuum emerged that both China and Russia have been eager to fill. China sees Afghanistan as strategically important for its Belt and Road Initiative, and as a potential source of mineral resources. It has engaged with the Taliban government, providing aid and investment in exchange for stability and access. The US, while officially disengaged from Afghanistan, is watching China's growing influence with concern. Reports of potential CIA activity in the country suggest that the US may be seeking to maintain a limited intelligence presence and counterterrorism capability. The situation in Afghanistan highlights the complex geopolitical dynamics at play, with the US and China vying for influence in a volatile and strategically important region. The competition for influence in Afghanistan is not just about geopolitical advantage, but also about the future of the Afghan people. China's economic engagement could provide much-needed investment and development, but it also raises concerns about debt-trap diplomacy and human rights abuses. The US, despite its withdrawal, still has a moral obligation to support the Afghan people and prevent the country from becoming a safe haven for terrorism. The evolving situation in Afghanistan serves as a microcosm of the broader US-China rivalry. Both countries are pursuing their own interests, often at the expense of smaller nations. The challenge for the international community is to find ways to manage this rivalry and prevent it from further destabilizing already fragile regions. Despite the formidable challenges posed by China, the United States still possesses significant strengths and advantages in this geopolitical contest. These strengths are rooted in its enduring economic power, its unmatched military might, its innovative capacity, and its network of global alliances. These advantages, if leveraged effectively, can help the US navigate the complexities of this rivalry and maintain its position as a leading global power. One of America's key strengths is its robust and innovative economy. Despite challenges, the US remains a global leader in technology, finance, and entrepreneurship. Its universities and research institutions continue to attract the best and brightest minds from around the world, driving innovation and technological advancements. This economic dynamism gives the US a significant edge in the global marketplace and provides the resources necessary to maintain its military superiority. Furthermore, the US benefits from a vast and sophisticated military apparatus. Its navy remains the most powerful in the world, capable of projecting power across the globe. The US Air Force possesses advanced fighter jets, bombers, and drones, ensuring air superiority in any potential conflict. Moreover, the US military has a long history of technological innovation, constantly developing new weapons systems and tactics to stay ahead of its adversaries. Perhaps most importantly, the US enjoys a network of alliances and partnerships that is unmatched by any other country. From NATO in Europe to its alliances with Japan, South Korea, and Australia in the Pacific, the US can rely on a network of like-minded partners to counter Chinese influence and maintain global stability. These alliances provide the US with a strategic depth and a global reach that China is still struggling to match. While the United States possesses undeniable strengths, it would be a mistake to underestimate China's growing power and influence. China's economic rise over the past few decades has been nothing short of remarkable, transforming it into a global economic powerhouse. With its vast manufacturing capacity, its growing technological prowess, and its assertive foreign policy, China is rapidly expanding its influence across the globe, challenging the United States-led international order. China's economic might is the foundation of its growing geopolitical clout. It is the world's second-largest economy and the largest trading nation, with extensive economic ties to countries around the world. China has leveraged its economic power to secure access to critical resources, invest in infrastructure projects, and forge strategic partnerships, particularly in developing countries. Its Belt and Road Initiative, while controversial, has extended China's economic and political influence across Asia, Africa, and beyond. Beyond its economic prowess, China is rapidly modernizing its military, aiming to become a true peer competitor to the United States. Its navy is expanding rapidly, with new aircraft carriers, destroyers, and submarines joining its fleet. China is also developing advanced missile systems, hypersonic weapons, and cyber warfare capabilities, challenging United States military superiority in the Indo-Pacific region and beyond. Moreover, China is becoming increasingly assertive on the diplomatic stage. It is challenging United States leadership in international organizations, promoting its own model of governance, and forging closer ties with countries that share its worldview. From its close relationship with Russia to its growing influence in Africa and Latin America, China is actively seeking to reshape the global order in its favor. In this era of great power competition, alliances and partnerships are more critical than ever. Both the United States and China recognize the importance of cultivating strong relationships with other countries, seeking to build coalitions that support their respective visions for the international order. The competition for allies and partners is a key aspect of the United States-China rivalry, with each side trying to outmaneuver the other on the diplomatic stage. For the United States, maintaining its existing alliances and forging new partnerships is essential to counterbalancing China's growing influence. The United States alliance network, built over decades, provides a strategic advantage that China cannot easily replicate. Strengthening these alliances, particularly with countries in the Indo-Pacific region, is crucial to deterring Chinese aggression and maintaining regional stability. China, on the other hand, is actively seeking to expand its own network of partnerships, often targeting countries that feel neglected or marginalized by the United States-led order. China's Belt and Road Initiative has been particularly effective in forging closer ties with developing countries, offering them much-needed investment and infrastructure development. China is also strengthening its relationship with Russia, forming a strategic partnership that poses a significant challenge to the West. The competition for allies and partners is not just about numbers, but also about the quality and depth of these relationships. The United States can leverage its shared values, democratic institutions, and commitment to a rules-based order to deepen its existing alliances and attract new partners. China, on the other hand, will need to overcome concerns about its authoritarian system, its human rights record, and its opaque decision-making process to build truly enduring partnerships. The geopolitical rivalry between the United States and China is the defining feature of the 21st century international order. The outcome of this rivalry will have profound implications for the future of global governance, economic prosperity, and international security. The world is watching anxiously as these two superpowers navigate this complex and potentially dangerous relationship, hoping for cooperation but bracing for confrontation. The stakes are incredibly high. At best, the United States and China can find a way to coexist peacefully, managing their competition responsibly, and cooperating on shared challenges such as climate change, pandemics, and nuclear proliferation. Such a scenario would require both sides to exercise restraint, build trust, and find common ground on key issues. It would also require a willingness to compromise and a recognition that a zero-sum approach to global affairs is ultimately self-defeating. At worst, the United States-China rivalry could spiral into a new Cold War, dividing the world into competing blocs, fueling regional conflicts, and stifling global cooperation. This scenario would be disastrous for all involved, leading to an era of heightened tensions, economic uncertainty, and the constant threat of military conflict. The risks of such an outcome are too great to ignore, making it imperative for both sides to find a more constructive path forward. The choices made by the United States and China in the coming years will determine the fate of the world. The international community has a responsibility to encourage dialogue, promote cooperation, and establish norms of behavior that can prevent this rivalry from spiraling out of control. The future of global peace and prosperity depends on it. The United States-China rivalry is not just about power and influence, it is about competing visions for the future of the international order. The United States, as the incumbent hegemon, seeks to maintain the existing order, a rules-based system rooted in liberal values, democratic principles, and free market economics. China, on the other hand, is pushing for a more multipolar order, one in which its own values and interests are given greater weight. This clash of visions is at the heart of the current geopolitical tensions. The United States argues that the existing order, despite its flaws, has brought unprecedented peace and prosperity to the world. It points to the role of international institutions, such as the United Nations and the World Trade Organization, in promoting cooperation, resolving disputes, and fostering economic growth. The United States maintains that a rules-based system is essential to prevent chaos and ensure a level playing field for all countries. China counters that the existing order is outdated and no longer reflects the realities of the 21st century. It argues that the United States uses its dominant position to impose its will on others, often at the expense of developing countries. China proposes a more multipolar order, one in which power is more evenly distributed and where different models of governance can coexist. It emphasizes the principles of sovereignty, non-interference in internal affairs, and win-win cooperation. The debate over the future of the international order is likely to intensify in the coming years. The United States and China will continue to compete for influence, promote their respective visions, and seek to shape the rules and norms that govern global affairs. The outcome of this competition will have profound implications for the future of global governance, economic development, and international security. The world is at a crossroads, and the choices made by these two superpowers will determine the course of the 21st century.